the lawyers of the land, our noble nations unite us. IBP, we dedicate our lives, justice and fairness to triumph. Rule of law, our guiding light, for truth and freedom we will fight. As our people build their destiny, we will find our place in history. Serve the country and the IBP, integrated part of the Philippines, sentinel of law and democracy. Marching on in unity, mabuhay! IBP, the lawyers of the land, our noble nations unite us. IBP, we dedicate our lives, justice and fairness to triumph. Rule of law, our guiding light, for truth and freedom we will fight. As our people build their destiny, we will find our place in history. Serve the country and the IBP.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening to our lawyers. Can everybody hear me? Is my mic okay?
Yeah.
All right. Now, good evening to our fellow lawyers. Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. Welcome to our lawyers.
Tama lang talaga.
Welcome, sir, to our lawyers personal security and safety webinar series. Personal security and safety are a common and unconscious concern amongst all beings. All of us desires it and assumes that in these modern times of intellectual maturity, we are all safe and confident that no harm will be done to us as long as we do and mind our own business. Assured that our government and leaders in charge of security will do its duty and responsibility to their citizens. Recently, however, the culture of violence and paranoia are slowly creeping the minds of our people, especially in the legal profession, where a countdown of our fallen brothers and sisters in the legal profession became a taboo. Lawyers converted to be an easy target for bullets and blades at an alarming chase. This is why this webinar becomes relevant and timely for our profession. Through our resource speakers, our attendees will be listening to a personal account and experience of what it feels to be confronted with what seems to be an imminent end. We will also have the opportunity to take note on how to handle these dangers, sharing techniques in self-defense on several scenarios. Thus, to start our program, we would like to call our National President, the National President of the Integrated Bar of the Philippines, Atty. Domingo Egon Cayosa, for his welcome remarks and overview.
Good evening, everyone. Am I heard loud and clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. First, thank you for joining us in this webinar. And we thank our national officers who helped put it together. This is one of the many webinars that your IBP will be conducting as a continuing effort to contribute to the safety and security of our brother lawyers. In the past, my dear colleagues, whenever there are lawyer killings, because lawyer killings have been happening even before, perhaps this time they come with more regularity, too frequent for comfort. But in the past, the traditional response of IBP was to issue condemnation statements, and that was it. To our mind, that was helpful, but it was not enough. And that is why, with the help of our national officers, the board, and of course, our national advisor on lawyer security, and our Director for Peer Assistance and our very capable program officers, we have upgraded the capacities of our national staff, our full-time employees. We have come up with this. And this is just a small portion of what we now know as the IBP Lawyer Security and Justice Program. So it's much broader. It's not just security, but equally important is Lawyer Justice Program. And let me just outline to you what we have done and leveled up from the traditional condemnation statements, because we keep on doing that. And sometimes, it is too frustrating, too limiting, too reactive. And sometimes it is a sad refrain. We just change the names and the dates and the circumstances. And it's the same thing we ask justice for our fallen brothers. Now, we have gone a lot farther than that. Your IBP now has a memorandum of agreements with PNP, with the AFP, and soon to be with NBI. These are the security agencies and law enforcement agencies of our country, because we have to understand that the security of lawyers and every Filipino citizen for that matter is the primary role of government. So we have to ask government to step up. What IBP is doing is just to have a direct support for our members, but the responsibility really is with government, not only because of its duty as a government, but also because of its international commitment. We keep on reminding government that it is an international commitment of the Republic of the Philippines to ensure that lawyers are able to do their job without fear, without harassment, without retribution. That is our international commitment as adopted by the United Nations, and we are signatories to that. So we keep on pressuring, asking government to help. At the same time also, we are not the political opposition, or we cannot operate outside of government, because even if we would want to secure our brother lawyers, we don't have the resources to do that. And that is why, as we ask government to step up, we also cooperate with government. And that is why we now have this MOAs, and we may not be able to discuss with you or reveal to you all the details, but from where I sit, I know that because of these agreements, we have hotlines with the Chief PNP, the AFP Chief of Staff, the intelligence community, and the NBI and the DOJ. We have been able to prevent or preempt a few attempts and mislabeling of our brother lawyers. At the same time also, if you would note, the more recent killings of Attorney Magkamit in Palawan and Attorney Wee in Cebu, and our brother in Bukidnon, because of this MOAs in action and because of our collaboration with the government agencies, they were able to apprehend the suspects and file charges within 2 weeks. So meron namang pagbabago, except that if we look at the bigger statistics, still far too many lawyer killings, judges and fiscals slain without justice. Marami pa rin walang suspect, marami pa rin hindi nakakasuhan. Yung nakakasuhan naman, the cases stay too long in the courts. And that is why we keep on reaching out. Aside from these MOAs and this sharing of information, hotlines, and proactive measures, we also have put up a 25 million Lawyer Security and Justice Fund to encourage and to support witnesses and successful prosecution of those who attack lawyers. We also have put in place a system by which, when these things happen, the leadership of IBP at the national level, and hopefully, and we know in the recent past, at the chapter level, the leadership of your IBP immediately gets in touch with the family of the slain lawyer to coordinate and to clear with them, to offer our help, and to clear with them what are the things that we could do, but of course, respecting their preferences. And that's why you would understand that in some cases, because of the preferences of the family, we don't issue statements and we don't get too aggressive. But in cases where the families of our slain lawyers wish us to help and are cooperative, then we set in motion our healthy relationship with PNP, NBI, DOJ, and the AFP. So it has given us results, except that it still happens, the latest of which was Attorney Gillian. And it doesn't end. So it is good that we have this program. We have these webinars, seminars, not only at the national level. I know for a fact that our dynamic chapters have their own programs, gun training, etc. And also recently, the group of Cebuano lawyers came forward with their lawyer protection program, and we appreciate that. We get inputs from them. We refine what they're doing. We recognize them, and we hope other groups also do that. But as far as your national IBP is concerned, it's much broader, because security is not only physical security. You will note the next webinars, for example, will include security against hacking in cyberspace and our financial transaction security. We will have a speaker, no less than the former president of IBM and now a senior executive of the Bank of the Philippine Islands. After this, I understand there's another webinar on executive security. So tuloy-tuloy lang ito. And we welcome, we appreciate, we recognize the initiative of the other chapters. What we are doing is putting videos of this, sharing with the chapters. I hope that the other chapters and the other groups, like the Cebu lawyers who put up the lawyer protection program, can also share with the chapters and other law groups. So nandun na tayo. We are doing a lot more. On my end, in the past, we would only issue public statements, media statements, press releases. On my part, I make it a point to personally talk to the family of the lawyers. When pre-COVID, I would make it a point to visit the wake of our brother lawyers, even if it were dangerous, because I think it is very important that we empathize with the family. And it has produced great results. It has energized our chapters when they see the top leadership of IBP braving the threats and the risks to be with them in their time of grief. So it's a personal thing, but it helps. And that is why, and I usually do this with the help and the presence of the chapter presidents. So I hope that in cases where I may not be available, I hope that the chapter leaderships can go and visit, or at least give a personal call to the immediate family of our slain lawyers. The other one that we've done is we encourage the chapters to immediately create a task force to focus on the attack against the chapter member and coordinate with PNP, AFP, NBI, depending on which agency we've asked to help us out. Because sometimes the reality is sometimes the family or the chapter suspects this or the other government agencies involved. So it will be foolhardy to coordinate with them. So we have a choice of coordination, and it has worked so far. Not in all cases, but more recently, it has produced positive results. Now, the life of a lawyer is really full of threats. It's part of our profession. And that's why courage is a required character of lawyers. I am pretty sure that all of us here are concerned, that all of us have enough courage to do what needs to be done. To my mind, it's okay to ask others to do this, to do that. But at the end of the day, it would be wise for us to focus on the things that we can do. So the other one also is that security, lawyer security, is a personal matter. But it is also important that your institution, the Integrated Bar of the Philippines, use its name and its resources to bear on this and to weigh in on all of this. And so far, we have succeeded. So thank you very much for all your inputs. Thank you for our speakers, Attorney Paulino Labrado and Major Lawrence San Juan. We cannot thank you enough. We also want to thank, aside from Attorney Tim Bansig and Attorney Job Castillo, I'd like to inform everyone that we have two very strategic officials of IBP, namely Governor Jason Horvina of Eastern Visayas and Governor Gina Mirano Hesena of Western Visayas. They co-chair the IBP Lawyer Security and Justice Program. Why not only security? Because, of course, we want to prevent, to minimize attacks on lawyers. But the reality is these criminals succeed every now and then. And that is why when it happens, to my mind, the best deterrence to further attacks would be resolute and quick prosecution. And we are also part to blame because lawyers, judges, fiscals, we run the justice system. My dear friends, if we cannot make the criminal justice system move faster, if we cannot deliver justice bliss for our fallen comrades and for the ordinary Filipino citizen, then the culture of impunity continues. And the culture of impunity fuels the violent attacks against lawyers, fiscals, and judges. So when they succeed in hitting us and killing us, we should work together and see to it that there is justice bliss and that those who are responsible for these attacks are identified, pursued, apprehended, prosecuted, and punished quickly. That is a challenge to all of us. So as we listen to all the sharings of our distinguished speakers, let me remind everyone that in our hearts, in our respective little ways, every Filipino lawyer should contribute to our campaign for justice bliss. Only when we make the attackers of lawyers or criminals against any Filipino pay for their crime can we expect that these attacks will be minimized. So it is within our control how fast we want to move the justice system. I implore all of you, I encourage, I enjoin all of you to contribute. The other one also is, if you notice, your IBP is better heard and more clearly seen nowadays. It should not only be me, it should not only be the national leadership. We encourage every lawyer, the chapter officers, every lawyer to speak out when one of us is hit. Because if we don't speak out, we don't do something about it, then we contribute to the culture of impunity. And to my mind, that is the more important reason why we speak out and act aggressively when there are attacks against administrators of justice and fellow lawyers. We do it for the sake of those other people who are also subjected to criminality and violence and breakdown of the rule of law. It's not because lawyers are more important than any other Filipino or any other soul. We should speak out and call attention and highlight this, because when our people and the criminals see that the administrators of justice, the lawyers who run the justice system can be killed and can be harmed with impunity, no one, no Filipino will feel safe. So it's important for us to do everything that we can do on a personal and institutional level to help secure our brother lawyers, judges, and fiscals, and also to seek justice for them, justice released for them if they are attacked. So these are twin concepts, more comprehensive, and we appreciate all the contributions that everyone may have. So thank you very much again. Let's listen to the presenters, and we encourage everyone to share this, and the leadership continues to appreciate and encourage all your inputs so that we can do more, better, faster at IBP and secure our brother lawyers and move the wheels of justice much faster. Maraming salamat. Good evening to everyone.
Thank you, President Egon Cayosa. By the way, we are also seen live on Facebook, and we also have the attorney Tim Bansig to help us moderate for our webinar. Okay. For our first speaker, he is the founder of the IBP Cebu Trial Academy and Abogadong Sugbuanan. He is a graduate of Bachelor of Laws at the University of San Carlos in 2001 and was admitted to the bar in 2002. He has a master's degree in history from the same University of San Carlos in 1992. He remains to be an active litigation lawyer since his admission to the bar. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Attorney Paulino Labrado.
Good evening. Thank you, Attorney Job. Any comment to my audio and video? Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
We hear you fine.
Clear,
Okay,
sir, clear.
thank you. The first time I shared my story was in our seminar in Cebu last February 18, 2021. For 3 years, I chose to be silent about this story because the personalities involved were in the localities in our province. So when I was invited as one of the actors, that's why I unfolded my story to the audience. And it was perhaps the reason why this organizer of this seminar invited me to be one of the speakers. This is my story. Sometime in 2007, a friend inside the government service called my attention because my name was included in the list of lawyers handling drug cases. I think there was a profiling of lawyers, and they were conducting surveillance as to what extent we operated as a trial lawyers handling accused cases involving accused involved in drugs. Since I was innocent on what he was trying to imply, because he was talking about some lawyers are involved in drugs, but I was involved in drugs only in trial, so I did not mind about it, and the warning was taken just as a grain of salt. There were killings thereafter that happened involving drug suspects, and during the time that sporadic killings happened in Cebu, I received this text message on the screen. It was sent to me in the Cebuano. If I would translate this in English, it's something like, Attorney Labrado, if you don't want something will happen to your family, please call this number. It's up to you. If you don't believe this, I'll be waiting for your call now. Wow. That was November 29, 2007, 3 months after I received a call. But the way I analyze it, it has nothing to do with that profiling of lawyers handling drugs, because the tenor of the text, something like personal. So I tried to figure out who the author was. And as I dissected the cases that I handled, it did not take too long for our group to identify these personalities. And that it involves land dispute, upgraded to criminal, charge, counter charge, and then administrative cases involving parties. So perhaps these were the personalities involved as authors in this thread. But I did not take it seriously. I imagined it was a joke because if I called, what would happen? I would be threatened furthermore. So I would rather consider it as a joke, ignore it, and go on. Let's see what happened. So just like a horror movie, that was an episode that ended up. So we move on after that text message was received. And then this incident happened on February 19, 2018. The mysterious list, the rumors regarding the list of lawyers to be subject of neutralization by the government forces became a reality with this incident where this lawyer was identified as a lawyer in one of the Senate hearings in Manila involving the investigation on illegal drugs. So many were terrified. I was one of them because most of my cases are into illegal drugs. I know one lawyer stopped the practice. Several withdraw their cases. But if we stop and if we withdraw our cases on illegal drugs, that would be an economic suicide in our office because that was the bulk of our income. And young lawyers who were with me were also handling drug cases. But the way we handled drug cases was professional. We did not involve ourselves in the planning, selling, etc. But it was just a professional job for any lawyer shall exercise his power to the extent of protecting the rights of the clients. So the incident involving Attorney John created some ripples in our community. So we keep on asking who are in the list and who will be in the next, who will be the next target. Sometime on July 2, 2018, another lawyer was shot. He was also lawyering for accused involving in illegal drugs, but there was a twist in the story that the motive in the killing was about the land dispute. During this time, more or less before, after the killing of Attorney Solima, I received a call from a client in a southwestern town in Cebu, telling me that certain personalities approached them, brought my picture, and hired their group to assassinate me somewhere in a court where I was supposed to attend a hearing. It just so happened that one of the family members in that group was our client in pro bono. So he identified the picture as me and my name. So they refused, the group refused because he was influential member of the gun for hire group. So the family called my attention and that I connected it with a threat because the personalities named were our suspects as the author of the threat, and sizing up their capabilities. They had the records of violence and they have the capabilities to liquidate me. So I took it no longer as a joke, but a serious matter. Per advice of my friends in the service, I bought a bulletproof vest. One of my partners, Attorney De donated to me the bulletproof curtains that should be hung at the driver's side. Allegedly, a 45 caliber bullet could not penetrate. So from that information, sometime like July, I started wearing the bulletproof as a precautionary measure. I hired bodyguards to man 8 hours from 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock in the office. I hired 2 bodyguards escorting me on my provincial trips. And it cost me a lot. It was inconvenient, but I have to take care of myself just to be precautious about this group would like to do harm, if any, on my life and safety. So after that incident, my experience returned to normal, and that I found out that in 2018, there were 2 lawyers killed. So there were stories circulated in our group that in every year there would be another victim to be killed. You can just imagine 1 lawyer being killed is already enough in a year in the same city. If another lawyer would be killed in the same city in the same year, that would be too much to bear. But imagine in Cebu in 2009, 2 lawyers were killed. 1 lawyer was killed and another one was being attacked, was ambushed. One did not survive. This attorney did not survive the attack. So imagine our situation. We were grouping in the dark about the list. Here comes killing one after the other. Ambushed, one was survived on September 2, 2019. And the pattern was every start of the year, one was killed or attacked. And the later part of the year, another is being attacked. It created paranoia among us, particularly those alleged to be in the list of being neutralized, allegedly, by some forces in the government. And then I was so lucky that these personalities involved in the threat of my life, one I suspected to be responsible for the text message, were likewise neutralized. So the threat on my life was somehow also neutralized. So while I was enjoying a brief, sigh of relief, a young lawyer came to me and revealed that a friend who has some connection in the military and in the government mentioned my name to be one. So that caused some paranoia and anxiety on my part. So while the threat on my life was eliminated, here comes another story that my name was included in the list. So with the killing of 2 lawyers every year, wow, that would be too much. Our story in Cebu was not heard in public because people who were suspected to be in the list would not like to discuss it in open forum. When we bump each other in court, we just say hello, hi, and the last parting word would be, let us just pray. Because we wanted to give up, but we had no other means to survive. We were concerned on the economic survival for our family because this is the only profession that we know how to survive in this life. If we would go somewhere like 1, 2 lawyers who really retired from the practice, good for them because they had the resources to survive. But for us who did not have the privilege, so we have to face the consequence. So in 2019, there were 2 lawyers being killed. Now, there was silence in 2020. In the early part of 2020, there was silence. There was no killing in January. There was no killing there was no attack in February, March. There was COVID pandemic and there was lockdown. But we were again awakened by the report that Attorney James Gupana was attacked for the second time on October 10, 2020. This was a second ambush. So Attorney Gupana was not involved in illegal drug cases, but he was involved in realty controversies in that area in Lapu-Lapu. So I connected my job to another source of threat, because in that particular city in Cebu, I have a very disputed case, a highly controversial one, that a multi-million project of the Chinese investors was not realized because of the cases that I filed. So there were tensions, etc., and so on. So I was also somehow affected, although my threat by these people was only by the first group of people was eliminated with that magical list on who will be the next in the drug lawyer, in the lawyers involved in illegal drug. Here comes another source of worries and anxiety, that it's not only those people being involved in drug who can be also a subject and object of this violent attack. Worse when it happened to Attorney Wee. Attorney Wee was not involved in drugs, in illegal drug cases. He was involved in the same realty controversies. So somehow we connected. Among lawyers who did not have my experience being targeted thrice, attempt on my life 3 times, that I survived because of just a pure luck. The case of Attorney Wee gave us some more jitters, because we have also similar cases involving land dispute, which were very controversial, like Attorney Gupana. And that a week after the death of Attorney Wee, the video was circulated. So vivid scenes in the actual killing. Attorney Wee was walking, he was shot, terrified his community of friends and colleagues in the profession. So we began to analyze the trend. Attorney Gupana was attacked, then Attorney Wee was attacked in November or September. I think this is November. This is not September. This happened in November. So there were 2 lawyers. So in 2018, there were 2 lawyers being attacked. In 2019, there were 2 lawyers being attacked. So in our secret communication with this group, with our group, we said we would be safe from December to January, perhaps, because 2 lawyers had been attacked in January in 2020. But we were shocked when this report that a lady lawyer was killed in Danao City on December 18. We were thinking that this would not happen to a lady lawyer, but he was being attacked. The trauma, the tragic situation in the story is that her husband was also killed in May 2020, and that there was some reports that this killing has something to do with illegal drugs. You know, you can just imagine our situation, particularly in my case, having a personal experience on threat, and here comes one lawyer being attacked after another. As I could very well remember that at the time my fellow lawyers in Cebu was being killed one after the another, para kaming mga sisiw inside the breeding pen, being attacked by rats, by snake inside the pen, killed one by one. Alam namin na pinapatay yung kasama, pero wala kaming magagawa. The chicks could not fly because it was dark. They could not run because they did not know what's the safest way to go. In the same manner that we were in the dark, grouping in the dark, who were these people killing us? Why are they killing us? Why? For what purpose? Knowing that we are not trained to kill, we are educated to enhance one's life, but we are being killed. There is no logic, there is no sense in this killing, but we have nowhere to go. When I was suffering from the threat, stress, anxiety for 2.5 years in my life as a trial lawyer in Cebu, I did not know where to go. Our IBP, our chapter presidents were quick to condemn by publishing the public statement, but the killers were not listening. Parang naging orasyo imperata ang dating ng mga public statement, walang effect to the killings because the killings continued in broad daylight. Atty. Ungab was killed right across the Cebu Hall of Justice. Attorney Inocencio de la Serna was attacked near the Cebu City Hall of Justice. So wala. If we want to stop, at certain point in my life, I said I have to stop in order to regain sanity and to, stay away from this danger. But it was more dangerous to stop lawyering because I had no other means. Wala akong passive income. So we have to face. Paano yon? So parang horror movies ang life namin. Yung one episode, pagkatapos balik sa normal, another episode of horror movies, pagkatapos balik sa normal, another episode of horror movies. In my count, I have 7 episodes of horror movies in my life from 2017 to 2020. Can you imagine that? If you have been watching horror movies within your thoughts and emotion for 7 times. The first 3 horror movies, I was the main actor. The 4 episodes of the horror movies, I was one of the supporting actor. So this has to be stopped. This is not the kind of climate that I want to do as a lawyer. But what can I do? I do not have control of these people who would like to kill us. We do not know them. Something happened that was the breaking point in my life on December 20, 2020. That was 3 days after Atty. Landero was killed. 5 o'clock, on the way to my car parked at the basement, I saw 2 men. I saw 2 men suspiciously looking at me. So with the videos from Atty. W's killing, I connected it to be the assassin. I claim it to be the target of those 2 persons. So I stood still. I watched their move. I called the guard. The guard could not explain. He was also terrified because they were armed. He could not explain to me what the purpose of these 2 persons were. So the guard explanation aggravated my situation. So I just watching. I was thinking of going back. I was thinking of going back to the office, but I was also imagining that the blocking force would kill me inside the elevator. So I just stayed beside my car, hoping that if they would attack, I would go straight to the car and cover myself with that bulletproof that I have inside. 5 minutes more, they rushed to the area. They rushed to the area where a car was being parked, and they started moving out. As they were exiting the garage area, I immediately took a shot of the Toyota Innova Red, and that I ran towards the sidewalk, watching the move. In my office, in our office, there is that Iscario. We can turn right, turn around, go back to where our office is. So I was imagining that if this car would be returning back to my position, that would be my end. So while watching if the car would appear, I saw a red car resembling that of that Innova, Toyota Innova. I claim it that I would be the target in that scenario. So instead of waiting for the first bullet to be fired, I ran scared to the parking area in the Jollibee. I took a taxi cab. I left my car inside in the basement parking. So while inside the taxi cab, I called the staff to investigate who were those persons and the plate number, contact the what we call the LTO, and that I asked my fellow lawyer to review the CCTV. So I went home. Before reaching the corner leading to our subdivision, I saw another car parked at the very spot where a retired policeman was being killed 3 days ago. Wow. So who these people are inside the car, parang hazard lights. So I asked the taxi driver to stop. I said, go straight uphill where I dropped. I walked 300 meters to my residence, tired, terrified. My wife was asking, what's wrong? I said, nothing. She asked about the car. I said, it's in the, what we call, it's in the shop. I did not reveal to him what happened. So that was it. I was waiting for the report from the office on the real identity. And then at around 11 o'clock, I received a call that the car was actually a car of a client, and the two suspicious looking men were his bodyguards, armed bodyguards, and that was no danger on my part. That was another sigh of relief. That was December 20. I did not report to the office on the 21st, 22 until I spent vacation. During that time, during my vacation, I spent the whole vacation meditating and reflecting. Well, if I would live this kind of life, I would rather be dead. If I would live my profession, I would be dead too, because this is my life. So I have to address this. So after listening speeches of inspirational speaker, I came into conclusion that death is a reality. The meaning of threat becomes significant if we don't accept death as a reality. If you accept death as a reality, threat has no meaning. I accepted death as a reality, that we would die anytime. Therefore, threat with no meaning to me. And that the whole psychological drama that I was into for 2.5 years was actually my own creation. I was the director of the horror movies in my life. Why should I suffer this? Can I not be suffering? Can I not be suffering like this? Can I enjoy my life with exuberant and pleasant emotions like a 5-year-old child? I can. Why? Because I am the master of my fate. So with this literature on inspirational book and speeches from Oriental philosophies, I came into conclusion that I have to give up this fear, anxiety. I had to face death so that threat would have meaning. We cannot control them. It's no longer, it's not point, there is no point in controlling the forces against us. It's just like a wave. If you know the balance in life, you can be a good surfer. That's what I learned. So I retired my bulletproof, and that curtain, which according to Atty. De Melio, a 45 caliber could not penetrate, I hung them on the wall, and that I was driving. I'm driving my own. I'm driving without a bodyguard. I'm no longer using the side and the right side and the left side of the mirror to see if riding in tandem would be at my side. I am now beginning to understand that threat to one's life has no meaning if you embrace death as a reality. That if you believe that life after death is better than this life, then that threat is not a problem. If you believe that life in heaven is better than this life, if you believe that there is heaven, Why postpone it to the year to age 70 or 80 years old? Death is the shortest way going to heaven. So with this enlightenment, I am now free. I do not want to commit suicide because I have no right to destroy my life. But if these outside forces would continue threatening us, for me, it's no longer a threat because I accept death. And this is the inspiration. This is an inspiration that I got from this horrible experience that I have, the 7 episodes of horror movies in my life. That this psychological drama is just my creation. And we are the director. We can choose to create horror movies in our life or a comedy film. We have to create comedy film because the moment you are living in a joyful life, you have a clarity of the mind. Since you have a clarity of the mind, you can create more ideas. And this is the idea of Abogado Cebuanon, because Abogado Cebuanon is an economic enterprise of the Cebuano lawyers. We want to establish our own cooperative, our own bank, our own realty business, so that if danger in lawyering would happen to us, we have another source of income. We have also organized the Lawyers Protection Program with incentives, with the institutional and the financial support. If we can only generate funds locally or nationally, this death threat, for those who are not enlightened, may be avoided. But the long-term program that I should suggest to IBP is more on the enlightening side. According to President Igon, threat is part of one's life. It's just to handle threat, to manage our life so that we will not understand threat as a threat to our life. Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you, Attorney Paul Labrado. Wala kaming magagawa. Feeling of resignation was cured by principles of we are the master of our fate. Threat has no meaning if you acknowledge death as inevitable thing. Maraming salamat po, Attorney Paul, for sharing your story. We hope the listeners and watchers may madadampot ating na-share ni Attorney Paul. By the way, attorneys, currently we have 206 participants in our Zoom webinar, and we have also watchers in our live Facebook. And every topic also based on our speakers, we will be having our open forum. We will be helped by Attorney team in acknowledging your questions. And if you want to be live, just inform us so that we can accommodate and give the floor to you for questions to Attorney Paul. No? Attorney Tim? Question for Attorney Paul? Magsisimula ako. Attorney Tim, yes.
Yeah, no. I was just asking if from our national office, if there are already questions posted via FB Live or this chat group via this webinar.
While we are waiting perhaps on a question, can I just address a question to Attorney Paul? Attorney Paul, since this is an IBP program, giving us your story, ano po kaya ang magandang gawin ng IBP insofar as these kind of experiences that you have, that you can suggest and advise to our national officers as well as to the chapters? You mentioned about nagkaroon po kayo ng mga parang alternative in case that lawyers would try or would decide to stop in practicing their field, their profession. Ano po ang pwede niyong ma-share para sa ating IBP and other lawyers with your experience po?
Thank you, Attorney Job. I have two suggestions. The stopgap solution and the long-term solution. Yung stopgap solution, yung ginagawa natin, lawyer security program. Sa Cebu, may lawyers protection program kami ni Atty. Adlawan at saka ni Atty. Ligota. Parang pattern after witness protection program. Pero yung lawyers protection program, conceptualized by Cebuano lawyers, mayroong economic package. Kasi one reason why I did not stop, because of economic survival. If we address the economic survival, those who are not enlightened, like me, about life and death, could escape the trauma of death, stress, and fear by having another alternative sources of income. That's why we organized the Abogadong Cebuano this year for a cooperative which has a long-term program on investment in realty and on banking and other financial institutions, that a lawyer, instead of borrowing money from the bank, will borrow money from their own lawyers so that the funds would be used for security purpose of those lawyers, because threat is inevitable. And it would not be costly, because in 2018, there were only 2 lawyers under threat, including me 3. So bali, not all lawyers are under threat, only 1 or 2. So long-term and short-term. So, yung ginagawa sa Cebu na training lawyers how to shoot, etc., I don't agree with that, because we are trained, educated to enhance life, not to destroy. The more you are fearful in life, the more you will become violent. And if you are fearful with a tendency to become violent, if you train lawyers how to shoot, so you know how far guns kill life. 1 bullet will kill 2 or 3. That's why it's more on addressing the economic side, because security is not our concern. Security is the concern of the government. Even how secured we are, we can still be vulnerable to any bullet. So we should accept the fact that death is immutable and inevitable, and heaven is there, good life. No problem with that. That's a long-term. That's a long-term solution. Enlightenment of all lawyers. Thank you.
So, Attorney Job,
Yeah.
there are no questions yet from our chat box or from FB Live.
Okay. Job,
I'll just share the. Press, yes, press.
yeah, on the financial package, let me just inform everyone that a part of the lawyer security and justice program is a decision of the board supporting our recommendation that when a brother lawyer is killed, possibly because of the case free legal aid or public interest cases that he handles. And we have a subset of these kinds of killings. Yung mga human rights lawyers, those lawyers lawyering for mga lumads, etc. And sometimes red tag and suspected to be lawyering for the insurgents. Nangyayari talaga yan. So what we propose to send a symbolic, if not a strong message, is instead of granting the usual 20,000 death benefit, when a lawyer is killed, possibly because of his free legal aid or public interest lawyering, we increase it to 100,000. And we have granted that to Attorney Trinidad. There's another application by Attorney Ramos and many others. I'm glad to inform our brother lawyers that in the case of Attorney Guillen, most recent victim, he survived, but your board is thinking of granting him financial assistance. So because we keep on telling lawyers, you help the poor, you stand with the oppressed. Kung minsan, we are also attacked because of that. So, and that's why we put our money where our mouth is. Kung tumutulong yan sa mahirap, at dahil dyan, he strengthened his attack, then IBP should also give recognition and make him and recognize the good that he's doing. We hope that nobody will ever need the 100,000 because you have to die to get that. But to us, it's a very important message that though no amount of money will take the place of a father or a breadwinner or a competent lawyer, it will never bring him back alive. But it is important to send a message to those who do these things that the institution, the organization of lawyers, recognize the good that our brother lawyers do and for which they might have been probably attacked. So isa yan sa mga aspeto na ginagawa natin. It's very concrete and we're very thankful to the 24th board for supporting our proposal. And we are very confident that this program will continue even during the next administration.
Thank you, Pres Egon. We have some questions here, attorney team, from our watchers. Basically, they're asking, how can we help Pres Egon, our brothers and sisters in the legal profession who are under threat?
Well, one, the first level of coordination, if they so wish, is the chapter, and that's why we're encouraging the chapter to be more sensitive and to be more proactive in reaching out or helping the lawyers who are under threat, if they so wish. And I received a handful of requests, but of course, because of the nature of the request, we cannot divulge the names at the national level. And that is what I alluded to earlier, because we have hotlines with the Chief PNP, AFP Chief of Staff, and DOJ. We are able to communicate and send the message. And in a few instances, na-neutralize. At kuminsan, meron lang mga false reports. What is good with our MOA is that we have constant and instant communication with the higher levels of authority. And we know that the military, the PNP, and the investigation and law enforcement units, they have a very efficient chain of command. So kung alam na nila na nakatimbre yan sa taas, maghinay-hinay sila sa baba. I'm not saying it works all the time, but it helps. And for us, the lawyer on the ground, it's also very important, in my experience, that the chapter knows, because the chapter has access to media. They also have access to the provincial commander, the regional commander, because the MOA with IBP with PNP at the national level refers to this MOA being cascaded to the ground units. So meron tayong ganon. Huwag sana mahiya, huwag sana mag-hesitate ang mga chapter officers, because that is sanctioned by their top management. So it helps. But again, as discussed by Attorney Paulino, personal kasi yan. It's a decision of the lawyer. Because IBP, though we may want to help, we cannot also force ourselves to the families. Minsan, they prefer to be quiet about it. They prefer to handle it their way. But it is also important, I hear in hindsight from some of the families, that even if we were not able to help, even if they were able to solve it themselves, but the fact that you offered to help is, very positive as far as nakakatulong din sa kanila, even if they don't avail of that. So I encourage the chapters to be more sensitive. And the other one, second one, is the task forces. Ginawa yan sa Palawan. Nag-task force ka agad, and guess who are the members of the task force? In the case of Attorney Magkamit, the chapter officers and the retired fiscals and judges. So alam nila yung pasikot-sikot. And it bore fruit. And then we get feedback from them. Binabato ko naman sa national leadership ng PNP. So may coordination at that level. So that helps. I hope that if we can, as Attorney Paulino has said, we can act faster and more proactively, the threat can dissipate or can be neutralized before it ends into another lawyer killing.
I think another lawyer raised her hand, Attorney Fe Garcia. Can we recognize Attorney Fe? You have a question, sir, ma'am?
Yes, Job. Hi, Attorney Paul. Oo, I
Yes.
just like to express my yung gusto ko yung sinabi mo na about your thought on death and heaven. Gusto ko 'yon. Kaya lang medyo may gusto ko lang malaman yung parang you are not in favor of self-defense kasi you are not into the chapter efforts of training lawyers how to shoot guns. Kasi to my mind, di ba, you will not use guns to kill anybody but just to defend yourself. Di ba dun sa gun training natin, sa gun training, di ba sinasabi din doon ng how to shoot, when to shoot, what not to do. So in effect, you will be taught how to be responsible gun holders. Yun lang yung parang ko po.
Attorney Paul, I think you're naka-mute. Please unmute.
It's like this. If you entertain the concept of fear to one's physicality, the more the object would become violent. Kasi in the world of violence, the one with the capabilities to destroy the physicality of another shall be destroyed. We are not into that business of destroying physicality. If what you mean is that we have to protect ourselves from danger, what for? It's not our own, it's not what we like. We do not have control of everybody's thoughts. Everybody's plan. If they are planning to kill us, we do not have any control. Because even if you are the best shooter, you can be killed. I mean, that's the business in shooting. So I am not for preparing myself to fight back. I'm not for securing myself to be secured and to live while I am in the exercise of profession, because that would disturb my sanity. I would rather accept the fact that death is a reality, and anytime we will die, then I should live a joyful life so that my last life before death would be joyful. No security is needed. Thank you.
Okay. Attorney Paul?
Yes.
There is one question here that somehow related to the recent one. It's from Attorney Eileen Kasem. May I allow to read? Attorney Paul,
yes.
How did your family react to the death threats? What did you do to protect your family from the threats? Because we know that on your personal level, you have learned to accept death as inevitable. How about your family, Attorney Paul?
I did not inform my family about it. The only thing is that my wife was surprised why he was sitting at the back, and why I was wearing the bulletproof, and she was asking about the guys, John, something like that. I made about a lot of stories because I was inspired by the movie Beautiful Life, where to the eyes of the child there was no war. It was a game. So if I would share these stories to my wife, so the two of us will be a victim of this threat. Now that I am enlightened, and I am also trying to enlighten my wife, I shared it to her, and we are sharing this threat together with prayer. So I did not share, and there is no point in sharing. You are just spreading the threat. These are creations of our mind. Fear, anxiety would not happen. Well, things that does not happen, why should we worry? And if you will share these things, fear, anxiety, to your wife, you will be suffering together. Good if I will be only one to suffer. Do not include your members of the family. So that's what I did. I lied to my wife. The first time that I lied to my wife that my life was in danger. Anyway, if I would die, my wife would become a millionaire because of the insurance.
Attorney Paul, the impression that I got from your story is more of the psychological issues, no? Na how to handle the pressure of death threats. No? would it be advisable for people in our profession to have an agreement or a MOA with clinical psychologists to help us adjust on what these threats are all about? Would you think it would help our lawyers, fellow lawyers, to handle it? Considering all things, no, na lawyers naman are usually very tough, no? They are very complacent in so far as their toughness is concerned. Tingin mo ba it would work also based on your experience?
No need, Attorney Job. You just enroll in the University of Google and YouTube. Marami dyan. You can be a PhD in psychology and philosophy in the University of YouTube and Google. I learned these things from Google and YouTube within a period of 1 month. And it helped me a lot. You see the bulletproof on the wall, it's no longer used. It's just a souvenir of how stupid I was entertaining these horror movies in my life. I was the director. I should have created comedy film instead of horror movies. Imagine, you will be living your life in horror for 2.5 years. My wife did not know. Huh? For the first time, I lied to my wife. Oh, you see?
All right.
Yeah.
Attorney T, we have a comment and a question from Attorney Hill Boringer. With the permission of the Press Egon, I think this would be for your answer. In some other countries, example, India, Pakistan, the lawyers go on strike en masse, wearing their professional clothing and plugging the streets, etc. Why does the IBP not organize such public demonstrations? Relying on the government does not seem to be a successful strategy, especially since there is a good reason to believe that a number of the killings were by state force.
But that is true. But IBP, through its chapters and the national office, has supported and staged public display of outrage. If you notice, before the Supreme Court, IBP supports and coordinates the public rallies with other lawyer groups. No, so IBP is there. We also know that quite a number of our chapters wear armbands and do their own public display of outrage, concern, and indignation, and it helps. That's very helpful. But the good attorney is correct. As a matter of fact, we have been planning on a nationwide display of lawyer outrage. But there are two options. One is court holidays, which the judges, and because we have also to coordinate this with the judges and the fiscals and the others to make it effective. Kasi hindi rin maganda na mag-walk out ka pero kalahati nandun naman. So, it doesn't send a very good message. The other one, which is more workable, is black armbands. That one, there seem to be greater concurrence to that kasi it does not further delay the proceedings in court wearing black armbands. So we are working on that na gagawin all over the country. So this is okay, we should do it, but we should do more than that. Kasi tama rin si Attorney Paulino we are addressing this to government, to those responsible for the security of lawyers and everyone else. We're addressing it. But the assassins, the criminals, they don't listen to that. They don't listen to that. And that is why it's also important that we train ourselves, we take other practical measures to avoid being hit. And then the other one that is also within our control as lawyers, fiscals, and judges running the justice sector, if we can all agree, kung ang tinamaan abogado, bilis-bilisan naman natin. Of course, the call is for all cases to move a lot faster. And we're partially guilty of that kasi delay tayo ng delay. But sana naman, pag abogado na yan, West Fiscal, bilis-bilisan. And that's why in the most recent meetings we had with the Supreme Court and the Department of Justice, they agreed to our proposal that the fiscals will have to render a report for all lawyer killings they're handling. Anong nangyayari? Bakit wala pang resulta? Ganon din sa judges. And we have one staff at the National Office dedicated in monitoring all the lawyer killing cases in court and giving feedback to the Supreme Court in coordination with the chapter. So yun ang ating ginagawa ngayon. Naghahanap lang tayo ng magandang timing for that nationwide black armband. So it's one of those things that we could do.
Thank you, Pres. Egon. Last na lang ito siguro, Attorney Tim, no? Because we have another speaker. This is addressed to Attorney Paulino. I would like to know what government agency the list of lawyers mentioned by Attorney Labrado were developed.
Yes, that mysterious list has no probative value. It's just a story rumor in Cebu that there is that list. And because of the psychological impact on the list on us, we claim it to be serious and true. That's why we were terrified in every lawyer being killed. We always connected it to the list. You see, the psychology of rumors, no? And the climate of violence around, we claim a fiction to be true. That's why we were terrified. That's why we were connecting everything that happened to the list. But there is no such list as far as I know. There is no such list that can be proven that it exists. It's just a story. So that story created a psychological drama in us. That's why we have to address this psychological drama. We have to enlighten the lawyers that in every situation like this, we should not entertain our thoughts and emotion. We should be intelligent enough. Our intelligence should not go against us. Our human intelligence should control our life, not the thoughts and emotion, because we will be creating the list as a real list. Actually, there is no such list.
So thank you, Attorney Paul, Attorney Tim.
Yes, that is very well said, Attorney Paul. And I have indeed high respect and admiration for people like you to have embraced death as inevitable. But for us who are not that ready and matured, at some point we come to realize that personal security and defense is likewise an individual concern. As President Cayosa emphasized, lawyer security is the responsibility of the state. However, we cannot fully rely on the security forces to provide us protection 24/7. So ultimately, we are in a situation we call yo-yo, short for you're on your own. First and foremost, lawyers must know how to come out alive from a violent attack. And there are two things that should be emphasized. Mental preparedness, which is most important. And the skill comes next. This brings us to our next speaker, guest speaker. He is an officer of the Philippine Army, a Scout Ranger, belongs to PMA Class 87. Presently, he's the commandant of the Presidential Security Group Training School, and his expertise relevant to our forum covers intelligence, counterintelligence, VIP protection, and security, combat lifesaver, among several other fields. His military expertise is further enhanced by being a Level 3 graduate of the International Krav Maga Federation, a self-defense and fighting system developed for the Israeli Defense Force. Without much ado, may I present to you, compañeros, compañeras, our next guest speaker, Major Lawrence R. San Juan.
To Attorney Tim Kenneth Bansig Jr., sir, thank you very much for that kind introduction. To the National President of the Integrated Bar of the Philippines, Attorney Domingo Egon Cayoso. To my fellow resource speaker, Attorney Paulino. All lawyers present, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. So for my lecture, I would like to share to you some guidelines on personal protection and security. As I was listening to the story of Attorney Labrado, basically I understand how he feels right now, taking death as inevitable, because he reached that point wherein he doesn't want to be imprisoned with that psychological effect of being threatened every day or day for the past 2 years of his life. However, we can do something. There is a tool. We need to equip ourselves with tools in order to protect ourselves. First and foremost, we can seek help from our security forces, from the PNP and AFP for some security measures. However, it is our responsibility also that we may be able to protect ourselves in our daily life. So allow me to share my presentation. So as mentioned a while ago, I'm a certified instructor of Krav Maga, and one of the quotes that we always use is, if you touch me, your first lesson in Krav Maga will be free. So for tonight, it's about your security and safety for all lawyers, or Seguridad at Kaligtasan para sa Abogado. The scope of my lecture will cover the following. I will be sharing some guidelines on principles of security. These are common sense actions or acts that we can do in terms of securing our home, securing ourselves in workplace, in public places, and while we are traveling doing our jobs. And I'll be sharing also the timeline, or what we call the Krav Maga timeline. So basically, we do not want to fight. The best way to protect ourselves is to be away from danger. And I will be discussing also common attacks and what to do. For example, you'll be in a kidnap situation, an assailant doing a knife attack, or threatening you with a knife, or threatening you with a gun. And if the time allows, I will be showing to you some techniques of Krav Maga that we can use for protecting ourselves. So every day, anytime, anywhere, there will always be danger, and it always exists. The attacker or the threat will always look for victims, and the victim may be one of us. A lot of lawyers have experienced to be part of the victim. Some have survived, just like Attorney Labrado, but a few of our colleagues or your colleagues face death because of the attack. So we need to adapt and maintain appropriate security measures, and this is part of the tool that we need to have in order to survive. So a few of the guidelines relating to security. So first and foremost, we need to have a good level of situational awareness. As I always tell my students, we need to develop 3 important senses: sense of sight, sense of hearing, and the sense of feeling. Sense of sight because we'll be using our eyes to scan and observe and look for indicators of danger. By doing so, we can do the step on how to protect ourselves and secure ourselves. Second, we need to develop the sense of hearing, because sometimes in a dangerous situation, we will be hearing some noises, verbals or words that would indicate danger. And lastly, it is a God-given gift, yung sense of feeling. Maybe all of us experience having goosebumps. Nobody teaches us that we feel that, but it sends a signal. So it has a purpose. So we can use that as part of our security, and I will be explaining that later. So situational awareness. First, we must know which areas of the country, the city, or our place of work or neighborhood that represents the highest security threat. So we need to assess the threat for us to play the level of security that we want to have. Be aware that there may be a real threat and that you may be a target. Be alert to anything unusual, such as strangers waiting outside your house or office or cars following you. If you notice anything suspicious, report it to the police or relevant authorities. So that's very important. First thing to note, there are only two places that we are vulnerable. First is our place of residence. Second is our place of work. In between that, we can vary our time of movement, we can vary our route. So there's a high chance that we can survive, except if the assailant or the attacker knows where we live or where we work. So that is the place wherein yung level of observation natin should be high. Also be particularly alert when arriving or leaving routine places such as your home or malls or restaurants or any place where you frequently visit. If you have children, teach them and other family members to be aware of their surroundings. They should have a healthy suspicion of strangers and unusual incidents, and be careful not to get involved in situations where they may be at risk. So situational awareness is not only important when they are at home, most especially if you are out of the house or office. Next is low profile. As lawyers, I know that when you do your job or your work, you will always be identified easily because you will be wearing your either a formal or semi-formal attire as part of your protocol. But if possible, you need to blend with the surrounding. Try not to attract unnecessary attention to yourself by, for example, talking loudly or wearing conspicuous clothes or jewelry. Do not identify yourself to strangers. Do not discuss your work in public where you might be overheard and identified. Be careful when speaking on the phone, especially on a mobile or in public place. When taking calls, identify the caller before giving out any personal, family, or personal details. Make sure that your home address and family details are kept confidential. So basically, when I say low profile, try to be as inconspicuous as possible and blend with the surrounding. Third is unpredictable routine or avoid predictable patterns. You can vary your routes, you can vary your clothes, you can vary where you exit, where you enter your office. You can vary the time wherein you will go home or do your extracurricular activities, and avoid predictable routines. Vary your timings to and from everyday places. Next is communication. You always tell any family member where will you go, what route you will be following, or going to your office or to any other places. In the Philippine Army, we have the so-called acronym GOTWA. So whenever we detach ourselves from our platoon or team, we use the acronym GOTWA. G, which stands for where are we going? O, others going with me. T, time I will be out. and approximate time that I will be away and time that I will go back. W, what if question. Those are for contingencies. What will you do, or what actions will you do if something happens when you are detached? And A, your specific action that you will be doing if something happens. So you can also apply that. So communicate. So if something happens, at least your any member of your family, friend, or colleague can immediately report the incident. And lastly, there should always be layers of security, or apply security in depth. Consider how vulnerable you are to the threat. Adopt and maintain appropriate security measures, as I mentioned a while ago. Develop security measures for each part of your daily life. Example, at home, in your place of work, while traveling. Security will be attacked at its weakest point. The attacker or the assailant will just look for any opportunity, perfect opportunity or timing. So you must apply these measures 24/7. You should not switch off your security precautions at any time. Home security. Our home is supposed to be our safe sanctuary, but there will always be someone who would try to intrude. As the saying goes, in security, there is no impenetrable security. Any kind of security, no matter how high it is, it will always be penetrated. So we always try to apply layers of security, even at home. So I've listed here important parts of our house that we need to check and recheck. First and foremost, we need to check our physical security, because inside our home it should be safe and secured. So first, our doors and windows. Recommended for doors, it should be a solid wood without glass, so that people outside will not see any activity inside our house. Fit a door viewer or hatch to the main door. We can also fit and use a chain door. Ensure you have a good quality locks and hinge bolts. And always keep external doors locked even when you're inside the house. When we talk about security, it is always equated with cost. So if you want to have a high level of security and you have the budget, then you can connect your doors, your windows, anything, garage, the gates with intruder alarm system. For the windows, make sure that it has proper locks, and if needed, you can place grills. Reinforce the windows with solid shutters or transparent security film. In high-risk area, if your house has 2 levels or more levels, consider all the ground floor and other accessible windows to be fitted with grills and steel bars. For the keys, you should have a minimum number of keys per lock, and all spares should be accounted for. For the lighting, make sure that all strategic corners of the house have good light. For your sleeping areas, make sure that all the rooms you sleep are secure, and they should be above ground if possible. And the doors should be solid, and the windows should have bars. If possible, assign one room as your safe room. So if in case there will be a home invasion, one of your contingency action will be all of the members or all of those inside the house will proceed or go to that safe room. And there should be an available communication system wherein you can easily call the police so that they can assist you during the home invasion. So for office security, again, as I mentioned a while ago, it is the house, your house and the office are the most dangerous place for all of us, because once the assailant or the attacker identify it, he will always find opportunity to attack us. So always check for something different. It may already be a sign of danger. So always have a security plan because it is important, and always rely on our security officers assigned with the facility on his specific plan for any kind of emergencies. In our office, there should be a proper access control wherein everyone should follow the proper security procedures so that no inadvertent entry of visitors or possible attackers to enter the premises. We should practice, that is also part of the physical security. So in the security parlance, we have the so-called PPDOIC. So in order to secure the office, the first layer will be the physical security. Second is the personal security, knowing all our colleagues are not being penetrated or infiltrated. Part of which also is the document security, information security, and communication security. So again, we need to refer to our security plan, which is prepared by our security department. So in case there will be emergency situations in our office, like for example, if what happened to Attorney Paul Labrado, wherein he already have death threats. So if there will be emergency situations, it might be an initial attack for you to get out. So first thing to do is do not walk outside. Go to a safe room if you have a safe room, or stay inside your office. Immediately call the local police or guard force, or if you have a emergency button, press your emergency button and wait, and do not leave until you are sure that you are safe. So again, the the security department should have a specific security plan in case there will be emergency situations. Next will be security in public places. Most of the time, you will be traveling, going from court to court, doing your jobs, and you will be exposed to several public places. So one, if you're out in the open, you always scan the area in order to identify any signs of threat. Develop your senses to aid in situational awareness. So again, every time you move and go to public places, make your own area assessment. Next is you need to have in your mobile phone your pre-programmed contacts, number of hotline of the Philippine National Police, nearest friendly forces from the Armed Forces of the Philippines, and always communicate using the acronym GOTWA. And when you're in public places, you need to identify any place where you can run and consider it as a safe haven. So for example, in your place of work, and you have your own routine route or routine area, try to identify any buildings or facilities wherein where you can use if in case there will be an attack, where you can use it as a safe haven and hide if you need to protect yourself. While traveling or in any kind of situation, there are some basic rules that you should follow to reduce the likelihood of coming to harm. If some of us are using public transportation, again, our first line of security is always observe the area. So we need to scan. And then we always look for a strategic location or position where we are going to sit. In a bus, try not to sit at the last part or last seat area. The most safest seat position will be in front or in the middle. And if you can stay beside the door, that's the best location wherein you can place yourself. And always think of contingency plans. What if? You always ask the question, what if? What if there will be a hold-up situation inside the bus? Try to visualize your actions or the things that you will do if that will happen. What if there will be an attacker inside the bus? Again, try to visualize it. So you always need to have contingency plans inside your mind. If you're using your own vehicle, before going to your vehicle, again, try to scan, observe the area, look for any indicators if somebody is watching you. Slowly proceed to your vehicle before opening the door or even before touching. Try to scan the vehicle starting from the front, going to the side, back, and try to divide the vehicle into 3 parts. So scan the vehicle on its lowest part, check the tires, the under hood, under the car, then the middle part, and the high area of the vehicle. Once cleared, open your vehicle, and then before starting, lock your vehicle, because there's a lot of modus operandi of a lot of attackers. If you will be attacked inside the car and the door is not locked, they can easily open it and pull you out. So again, check the vehicle before you check the inside of the vehicle or the internal part of the vehicle before moving, and always be alert while traveling. Again, always have contingency plans in your mind. If you feel that somebody is following you, one, you can drive the car directly going to a nearest local police. Two, try to evade or try to enroll in any driving or defensive driving courses or training so that you can apply it if somebody will be following you. And next is the IKMF Krav Maga timeline. So this is one of the tools that we can use. A while ago, there was a a discussion regarding the use of firearms. Basically, protecting ourselves or personal security is not just about using firearms. Basically, it's about prevention, and that is the most important thing. We need to prevent being in a dangerous situation. So in the Krav Maga timeline, our first line of defense is situational awareness. So that will be, all of our actions will be anchored on awareness. So if we are aware of what's happening around us, then we can prevent being a victim. We can assess the threat, we can assess the situation. So if you think that the area is not safe, then after prevention, we can avoid. So that's the next thing to do. Third, if we are involved or about to be involved in a situation where we are in front of our attacker, there's still a chance to secure ourselves by de-escalating the situation. When we say de-escalating, it depends on the situation. For example, if the attacker is unarmed and we still have a space or a distance away from the attacker, we can talk it out and try to negotiate. But of course, we cannot say that it's a 50-50 chance. If we know how to talk, if we know how to negotiate, and we can lower the tension, then there's a possibility that he will not attack. But the other 50% is, even if we talk to him, even if we negotiate with him, he will still continue with the attack. So the last part of the timeline is we fight. And if we fight, we need to fight aggressively. Again, it depends on the situation. Our attacker may be unarmed or armed. With the story of Attorney Labrado, there were more or less 6 to 7 lawyers who were attacked using a pistol. So we manage that kind of situation in a different way. But when we see a certain situation, attackers may attack us either unarmed or armed. So again, if we are going to use the timeline, we don't necessarily need to fight in order to secure ourselves. As I mentioned, the first line of defense that we have, of the first line of security, is situational awareness. If we have that high level of security awareness, then there's also a high probability that we can prevent from being involved in a violent situation. In your line of work, these are the common attacks that one may experience. One may be involved in a kidnapping situation, kidnap for ransom, maybe because of the case that you are handling. You will be involved in not only in gun threat, of course in actual attack, just like the story that was shared a while ago, wherein 6 lawyers were killed using a pistol or a firearm, a short firearm. One may be involved also in knife threat and knife attack. Allow me to share you some actual footages of your colleagues in being involved in this kind of incident or attack.
Pinaulanan ng
About sir.
nakamotorsiklo ang sasakyan ng isang prosecutor sa Caloocan, pero nakaligtas ang target. Kung paano, alamin sa pag-aksyon ni Marlene Alcaide.
Kuha sa CCTV ang paglabas mula sa restaurant at pagsakay ng isang lalaki sa pick-up sa barangay 108, Caloocan. Ilang segundo lang, dumating ang isang rider. Bumaba siya sa motor at binaril ang bintana ng pick-up sa may driver's seat. Dumating din ang isa pang motor at pinagbabaril ng angkas ng pick-up. Pero nakaligtas ang target na si Elmer Susano na prosecutor sa Caloocan City Regional Trial Court dahil ang sasakyan niya nakaulit pala.
So as you may see on the video, the Caloocan prosecutor was able to survive the situation. So let's analyze the situation because again, a lot of your colleagues have been involved in this similar situation wherein the assailant uses pistol in order to inflict injury or to kill. First and foremost, the involved prosecutor acknowledges that he has a threat. So he is aware of that. Since he acknowledges that he has a threat, he employed a different security measure, and one of which is preparing his vehicle by putting a bulletproof windows and glass. A second, before he enters his vehicle, he stopped at the door part and tried to scan the area. Basically, it started because he really is aware and acknowledges that he has a threat. So when he was inside the vehicle, we've seen the attackers firing their guns, but because of the bulletproof windows, he was able to survive. Again, we just need to have the proper tool, and the tool that he had there is his situational awareness and presence of mind. Let's look another video. Ito, diretso na to.
Sa kuha ng CCTV sa Barangay Baclaran, Parañaque itong Lunes ng hapon, makikitang may mga naglalarong bata sa daan at abala naman ang iba sa kanilang mga gawain. Maya-maya, isang lalaki na nakakapat face mask ang mapapansin naglalakad habang nagsa-cellphone. Hinintay niya lumagpas sa kanyang lalaki na shorts at pulang t-shirt. Sinundan niya ang lalaki at biglang binunod sa kanyang sling bag ang isang baril. Palakitan niyang binaril ang 3 beses ang biktima bago tumakas patungo sa direksyon ng Pasay. Kita sa reaksyon ng biktima ang pagkabigla sa nangyari. Napaupo siya sa kalsada bago naglakad palayo. Kinilala ang biktima na si Ruben Rebucio, 24 anyos at isang helper. Naitakbo pa siya sa ospital pero namatay din matapos magtamo ng mga tama na bala sa likod at mukha.
So in this second situation, the assailant or the attacker also uses a gun and he fired at the victim at point blank distance. So one, the victim lacks the situational awareness. He doesn't have any idea. So basically, he doesn't know that there will be somebody who would attack him. Second, he was clearly you can see that he doesn't know what to do. He was able to look and to face the assailant, even with the assailant pointing the gun at him. It is clearly that he wasn't able to react. So lack of training. And third, because of that, because he doesn't have the training, he doesn't have the proper reaction. So he was startled, and the people around him did not help him as fast as they can. So in the end, he died because of the gunshot wounds. And lastly, Another lawyer was a victim of mugging and knife attack.
Inabutan na ito ng mga sospek. Binugbog at sinaksak gamit ang screwdriver. May mga nakarinig sa paghingi ng tulong ng biktima, kaya rumisponde ang mga tanod. Tumakas naman ang mga sospek. Nagtamo ng saksak sa sintido at balikat ang biktimang si Atty. Angelo Carlo Guillen, Secretary General ng NUPL Panay. Pauwi si Guillen sa bahay ng kanyang kapatid nang masaksak. Dalawang anggulo ang tinitingnan ng mga pulis.
So in this third video, we've seen the attackers using not a pistol but a knife-like weapon, a screwdriver. So again, clearly the victim is not fully aware of what's happening. His initial reaction was to run, which is, again, it is a technique in security. We need to create distance as fast as we can. So if we need to survive and we don't know how to defend ourselves using self-defense technique, we immediately run. So he ran. However, he fell down. And when he fell down, he was mugged, and one of the attacker stabbed him, causing him to be injured. So again, when we talk about personal security and protection, it is not just about knowing how to use a firearm. When we talk about security and protection, it's basically getting lots of tools, layers of security, or lots of tools that would aid you in securing yourself. So again, one, the level of security awareness should be high. First and foremost, if you know that or you acknowledge that you have a threat or somebody is threatening you, so you need to use the three senses. You need to scan and observe and look for any indicators if there's danger. You need to hear and you need to feel that. If you identify that there is a threat, the first thing that you need to do is to prevent by creating distances or creating distance. If there's a time to avoid, then avoid it. Third is to de-escalate it. And lastly, if you cannot really avoid it and the attacker is just has already attacked you, then another tool is that you need to have a self-defense technique, or you need to know some self-defense technique. We always say that attacker does not adhere to rules. He doesn't even care whoever we are, whatever the status of our status, so he doesn't care about that. That's why he's also in need of money, because a lot of our assailants are gun for hire. So his also reason is for economic survival. So he will do everything just to inflict injury or kill you. So as such, we need to do something, and we do not just place ourselves to be a victim, and we need to learn to defend ourselves and our loved ones. So it's important that we have the necessary tools for our personal protection and security. Again, it is not just about knowing how to shoot. There's a lot of tools, and one of which is knowing few techniques or important techniques of self-defense like Krav Maga. Before I do some demonstration, let me just hear questions if you have questions about the presentation.
Major San Juan.
Yes, sir.
We know that most lawyers are not really defense practitioners or are not really tactical persons, so to speak. In most situations, even when armed with a gun, in the face of a sudden attack, the victim can hardly move. So, what practical exercises can you advise for a busy lawyer to avoid this, avoid this kind of situation?
Actually, sir, as I always say, security is not just about knowing how to shoot. So again, we just need to be equipped with different tools. One of which is to elevate our security awareness or security consciousness. We can prepare our home, our office, if we know that uh, we are threatened, or if you feel that we are threatened. That's the first thing to do. Try to harden our home security and office security. Second, do not give any pattern. So when driving or commuting, you continue scanning and observing. Again, it's about security awareness. So again, yun yung importante. Hindi naman kailangan na lahat may barel. Maging conscious lang tayo sa paligid and look for any indicators para prepared tayo kagad. Once prepared, we can immediately prevent being involved in a certain accident or incident, attack incident. If you have time or limited time, I also recommend na kailangan magkaroon din tayo ng knowledge about self-defense. I recommend Krav Maga. Krav Maga is easy to learn because it's based on natural responses. And when we practice Krav Maga or any kind of self-defense, it develops self-confidence, it develops presence of mind, and it develops that level of security. So I think that's the best way of or an alternative way instead of just knowing how to shoot.
Okay. Yes, so far there are no, we cannot see any questions in the chat box or from the FB Live. So I guess the participants are intently listening to what you are saying, Major San Juan. And
Attorney Tim, I think Gobpe is raising her hand.
Oh,
Gobpe.
sorry.
Yes, Job. Major San Juan, I would just like to know if you are teaching also Krav Maga to civilians.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. We are teaching Krav Maga to civilians, ma'am.
Okay. Major, pwede niyo ba kaming bigyan ng quotation niyo?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
To those who are interested to learn Krav Maga, you can visit and inquire on this website, IBP Philippines or Red Side Academy.
Saan yan, Major?
Ma'am, ang IBP Philippines have, I think, seven gyms, most of which are nandito sa Luzon, ma'am, but we have in Cagayan de Oro, Davao, Cebu, and Cagayan de Oro, ma'am. We can also teach via online, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, Major.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Reliable Pancho is also raising his hand.
Yeah. Good evening. Good evening, Major. No, I think he answered my question. I was going to ask, considering that we're in a lockdown and there are health concerns, no, many of us are hesitant to go and have physical contact with other people, no? And he mentioned that there's an online, there are online classes. Tama ba yan, Major? Online classes.
Yes, sir.
And then we can inquire dito sa IKMF Philippines. Tama?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So
Uy,
you can
maraming salamat.
you
Yeah,
can
we
you
can
can
inquire there.
Yes, sir. You can enroll on the online regular training. So for each session, it will last for 1.5 hours, sir. So in that period, there will be few techniques that will be discussed, and actually you will be able to do the techniques.
Useful na siya.
Yes, sir.
Enough to give us confidence should the need arise for us to respond
Yes, sir.
to threats. Uy, okay. Maraming salamat. Egon, maraming salamat pare sa ginawa nyo ngayong gabi. Kahit na hindi naman threatening yung mga kaso namin. Knowing that there are these things that are happening, it will help a lot. Magandang gabi sa inyong lahat, saka have a nice weekend. I'll have to leave. Sige, maraming salamat, pare.
Thank you for that. So we are seeing more hands from our participants. There's a question that Attorney Jose Hipolito would like to ask.
Hi, good evening, Major San Juan. Good evening, everyone. So, just by way of introduction, I'm also part of the IKMF Philippines. Also a member of the Philippine IBP. So, yeah, I'm also a lawyer. So, dun sa mga questions regarding if madali ba siya, yes. It's very easy to learn, but again, you have to make time rin naman, no? So, I know a lot of people are reliant with their respective guns and other self-defense weapons that they can use. And I think one of the questions that was raised earlier is that some people have guns, but when it's time to use it, they usually freeze because nagugulat sila or hindi sila sanay na meron threat na kinakaharap. So hindi nila nagagamit yung tool. Just just to add lang, no? Yung baril kasi is a tool that we use in fighting. It's just a weapon, okay? So the best weapon pa rin is us, okay? So for you to be able to use yung mga tools ninyo in fighting, you have to train. That's what we would like to espouse for tonight. Training makes you more efficient, okay? So just like in law, for you to specialize in something, you have to do it over and over again. So same rin dito, if you have a gun, you have to train how to use it. Si Major Lawrence at saka ako, pareho kaming tactical shooting instructor. Of course, ako civilian lang, si Major is military. So hindi kasi unlike yung mga practical shooting, again with all due respect to them, for us we teach tactical shooting among other things, So yung tactical shooting kasi it's a technique that you learn by doing yung mga exercises, and it teaches you how to react when you are being shot at. Hindi siya yung nandun ka lang sa range and then practice, may paper target or may target boards that you shoot, static lang siya, nakatayo ka lang doon. Or doon sa may mga timer, natatakbo-takbo kayo, orasan, and then pabilisan, and then that's it. It's fun, it's okay, but it's not practical, so to speak. So yeah, I just want to encourage everyone to try out rin itong Krav Maga. So yeah, you can inquire, and thank you very much again, Sir Lawrence. Good evening everyone. Happy weekend.
Attorney Irvi Taytayon also. You're recognized. Attorney Irvi, you're raising your hand. Okay. Attorney Cres Dan Bangmoy.
Hi,
Yes.
good evening. Good evening, sirs. I am Christian Bangoy. I'm a lawyer from Davao City. And actually, na-experience ko na kung paano mabaril. Oo. Sometime in 2011, na-ambush ako. 45 yung tinira sa akin. Ulo sana, kaya lang, I was able to walk a step forward, kaya ang tinamaan bumaba ng about 6 inches, kaya dito lang ako tinamaan, ito pa. Pumasok dito and hanggang sa left scapular bone. Inoperahan ko, it's about half an inch sa spine ko. Dumaan yung, buti mataba ako, dumaan doon yung bala. My question is this. First, nahirapan akong kumuha ng palagi nung sa permit to carry. Number 2, pag inambush ka talagang, honestly, first-hand experience, swerte ko nga, ilan lang kaming nakasurvive ng 45. So, Major, tatanong ko, paano ba kami matutulungan dito? I mean, lawyers, the problem is this. Pag ang abogado na-ambush, mahirap maghanap ng abogadong didepensa sa'yo o tutulong sa'yo. Because you are like a hot potato. And mind you, at that time, I was the immediate vice president of Davao City IBP nung na-ambush ako. Sa bagay, huwag na tayong mag-emotional, but that's the truth. It's about almost 10 years already. Kaya lang, siyempre, the scar is there, the threat is there, and buti na lang, ang vice mayor at the time ay yung presidente ngayon. No? So, with the help of Bongo and Mayor Duterte, na solve yung kaso. Swerte ko sa Davao nangyari. But right now, gusto kong malaman is ano bang dapat kong gawin? Sobrang swerte ko na siguro if I hope not. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir. Sir, again, yun nga sir, we need to invest on training. Kahit na gaano kadami yung baril na dala natin, if we are not trained to how to use it, we cannot effectively use it. So invest on training. Since nasa new normal pa lang tayo, sir, we can still train online, but there's substitute in face-to-face training. During training, it develops our presence of mind, our reflexes, and most specifically, our mindset. Marami rin nagsasabi na dahil nag-train siya, akala niya magagawa niya in reality. Yung na-experience mo, sir, is one, not just because of the luck, but because you have the presence of mind. Yung pag-akbang mo na yun, that save you from...
alam mo kung saan ako inabangan? Sa bahay ko pa.
Yes, sir. Yun nga, sir. Yun yung vulnerable sa atin. Place of residence and place of work.
Pagbaba ko sa kotse, paakyat ako, papasok ako. Pala. Kaya doon. 45 yung tinira. Kaya ngayon, that is why I'm also asking the IBP National why it is very hard for us, especially persons like me, who have first-hand experience. Bihira lang yon, yung makatikim ng bala. Bakit ba parang napakahirap pa rin to prove na, I mean, there is no longer, I think, a need for threat assessment because it's not even a threat. is actual na nangyari. And number two, bakit ba with the line of work that we have, it's very difficult for us to pass through all these regulations. And you cannot even carry your gun. No, you cannot even carry your gun paglabas mo ng kotse o lagay mo sa bag dahil wala kang PTC or what. Kaya can the PNP help us regarding this? Alam mo, ganito, I agree with you that there's a need talaga to be prepared and to harness your skill. But the problem is because you can practice for any tools, you must have the tool first. And how can you use that tool when you cannot even carry it outside your residence?
Yes, sir. We can seek the assistance from the Philippine National Police, sir.
Ilang beses na akong pumila doon, nakakuha ako ng PTC sa isang barel, tapos yan, dahil pandemic, hirap naman mag-process doon, tapos yung PTC core, ayun pala, yung ano yun, LTAP, 2 taon lang, and it will be expiring soon. Paano ba yan? How can we do about it?
Actually, sir, I'm not in the proper authority to for yun sa mga sir, sa PNP po kasi yan. I'm with the Philippine Army, sir. With the Philippine
okay. Sorry. I thought you're the PNP major, but this is my personal talaga experience. So, sana matulungan din nyo kami.
Hello, Attorney.
Thank you.
Attorney Banggoy.
Ay, sir, good evening
yeah,
po,
Attorney
Mr.
Banggoy,
President.
Attorney Bansig po. There is a coordination between the IBP ongoing as well as the Philippine National Police on matters pertaining to the acquisition of firearms, the licensing, as well as the issuance of PTC4. And I don't really know the details, but there are ongoing negotiations for this. We can consult the IBP National.
Attorney Team Press Egon is online. I think he wants to say something. Press Egon, go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Attorney Banggoy. Thank you very much for bringing it up. You know, it's not exclusive to you. Many lawyers are in the same position, but let me just inform everyone of the following. Number one, the IBP National and quite a number of our chapters making use of the IBP PNP MOA have been conducting one-stop shop caravans for gun owners and prospective gun owners among our members. Secondly, during the negotiations for the IBP PNP MOA and Lawyer Security and Justice, we tried to include in the MOA an outright across-the-board exemption for all lawyers. They consider that, except that PNP Legal brought to our attention some provisions of law and existing rules of the PNP and the Firearms and Explosive Office, FEO, that cannot be amended or changed by a mere MOA. Okay, so ang doable compromise, because ang ano nila is, for a number of lawyers, they're really meritorious, except that hindi lahat. So mahirap din na lahatin, which we understand. So the happy and workable compromise is this, and we find it in the MOA, in the letter of the MOA, that PNP will facilitate on a case-to-case basis the processing of licenses and permits to carry by IBP members. So at least meron na yung facilitation clause kasi hindi pwede yung outright exemption eh. And we understand, being lawyers ourselves, pinakita naman sa atin, o nga naman, we cannot just put it in a MOA and the law is disregarded, the rule is disregarded. But they're open to facilitation by IBP. And if your chapter still doesn't have that mechanism through the local PNP, kasi may mga counterparts naman ng FEO sa ibang mga regional offices. If they don't have that, and you wish IBP National, we have staff and we have program officers who can facilitate this for you. Kasi considering that we have that MOA and we have goodwill mechanisms within the PNP structure. Okay, so that much we can say. But the other one is IBP National. We are positioning and supporting emerging legislation or proposals to increase the period of effectivity of licenses from 2 to 5 years. Pero kailangan batas pa dyan. So I don't know how fast Congress can act on that. We will again appeal to the 56 congressmen lawyers and the 7 congressmen senators.
Sir, sino po yung pwede nating makontak sa IBP National? Because right now I'm already here in Metro Manila.
We have one staff whose one of her major functions is to extend assistance to lawyers regarding lawyer security and justice, and that is AYESA. Sa national AYESA. If you would need higher level help, nandyan naman si Program Officer Jean Dominiciac. At the officer level, mga abogado, nandyan si Colonel Tim Bansig at nandyan si President Job Castillo of Pasig. They are both national officers. But yung ganyan, yung staff work, yung staff na natin, kaya na niya. Kasi meron na tayong MOA eh. That's the beauty of investing in these kinds of MOA because it will serve a variety of purposes. For the first time na nangyayari yan, na meron tayo. In so many ways, nakakatulong po yun. It will not solve the problem totally, but believe me, marami tayong nagiging proactive moves na pipreempt, na piprevent dahil dyan.
Importante, I think this kind of activity, that kind of MOA and cooperation, that will help the lawyers also kasi we cannot really deny na pagdating sa threat, pagdating sa mga sitwasyon na medyo bang kasama na buhay, palaging number 1 yung lawyer dyan. Palaging under threat tayo sa trabaho natin.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Attorney.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Salamat po.
Attorney Tim, meron pa yata isa si Attorney Irvie.
Attorney
Irvie. Please ano lang, no? Kasi parang naririnig natin sa korte due to lack of material time. Medyo we have to limit also our guests, no? But Attorney Irvie, the floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. I would just like to reiterate, sir, the chat that I've already sent to our president, Attorney Coyosa. If the IBP would be able to lobby to the COMELEC during the election period that IBP lawyers, those at least that are not exempted from the gun ban, be included therein, since this is the most precarious time for lawyers, and that this is the time that the attackers or those who are threatening lawyers know that we cannot legally carry on. So, though Mr. Major is the one who is talking, the one who is on the floor, I'd like to carry this out to our president of the IBP.
Can I respond to that, moderator?
Press Egon, yes. Press Egon, yes.
Well, thank you, Attorney Irvie. No, we will certainly try to do that. No, way in advance. Yung requesting COMELEC. If you notice, most of the commissioners, if not practically all of them, are lawyers. But again, the main stumbling block for a wholesale exemption of lawyers really are existing rules and regulations. But I think what IBP can be sure of is to negotiate for facilitation of gun ban exemption on a case-to-case basis. Yun ang maaring kayang gawin ng IBP with COMELEC. Yung medyo mas mahirap yung across-the-board exemption of lawyers from the gun ban. There's simply just too many roster members of IBP, and we cannot also, ang binabalik sa atin usually pag ganyan is, kaya ba ng IBP to police its own ranks? And the truthful answer to that is we cannot. And that is why the more doable version would be for IBP National to facilitate and negotiate some loosening of restrictions in favor of lawyers. Medyo mahirap, Atty. RV, yung wholesale. We've seen that sa PNP with respect to licensing and permits to carry. Sa COMELEC, they might be more sympathetic kasi all of them are lawyers, but we have to understand that they also have public good and interest to take care of. Not to mention being accused of class legislation. Alam mo naman, pwedeng sitahin sila ng media and other sectors. So, but nevertheless, your idea is worth trying. We will. By that time, I will no longer be the president, but I'm confident that if we, since we have a good program, the next administration will follow through.
If I can just follow up through, Mr. Moderator, please.
Yes, Attorney Taytayon.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, you mentioned earlier that there is a memorandum between PNP and IBP. Will it be available online on our IBP Facebook page or our website, for example? And with respect to the one that I raised about the COMELEC exemption, if it is, I understand that it would be very broad if all of the lawyers would be given exemption. But would it be possible if at least PAO lawyers or heads of PAO district officers be given at least the exemption through the recommendation of the IBP? Because if you would know, the IBP, the PAO district officers are giving COMELEC duties during election day. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Can I respond to that, moderator, please?
Yes, Mr. President.
Okay. One, the IBP PNP MOA was already cascaded to the chapters, and we expect the chapters to place that in the respective Facebook and Viber accounts and email accounts. No. Secondly, we have also publicly posted those MOAs, including the more recent IBP AFP MOA. Medyo natagalan lang ito. Halos sabay actually yung agreement in principle niyan. Nauna pa yung AFP. But natagalan lang kasi papalit-palit ang mga chief of staff, mabilis. Pangalawa, it required the conforme of the Secretary of National Defense. So medyo natagalan tayo doon. But the fact is, as soon as those documents were formalized and the ink has dried, pinublish namin yon. We didn't put it long term sa ating website because natatabunan yan ng more recent mga announcements and materials. If you notice, our website is a lot more dynamic now. Halos araw-araw may bago. But we can certainly send it to you. You can email our IBP National or send a request in the Facebook. Our program officers can send you a copy so that you are properly guided. The chapters know about this. Some of the more active and dynamic chapters have made use of this actually, kasi it includes free use of the firing range and training facilities of PNP-AFP, including yung expertise on security matters, mga lectures gaya ng ginagawa natin ngayon. It can also happen at the chapter level. Yung facilitation, it will be IBP national if your chapter cannot do it for you. We can send you personally or you can access it through your chapters. 2 pages lang ito, very brief, but makikita nyo talaga na very well structured, reasonable terms and conditions, and we have operationalized many of these provisions. Yung sa PAW naman, my comment on that is the primary jurisdiction, if I may term it, really belongs to Director Persida. If necessary, we can lend our support to the request, but hindi rin, I don't think it is also proper for IBP to preempt Director Persida. I think you will agree with us, no? Because your official and direct supervisor is the PAW chief. So if that is settled with her, IBP can certainly support it. We can endorse, we can lobby for it.
Okay. We are concerned with the time. So we still have questions, but our guest lecturer has some demonstration to show us. So maybe we can provide him the opportunity to share whatever demonstration he has to share. Major San Juan, please.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So again, sir, ma'am, basically an attack is very brutal and very violent. We don't want to be in that situation. Kaya palagi kong in-encourage, itaas natin yung level of situational awareness natin para makaiwas tayo in such kind of situation. But in a case wherein we really need to defend physically, dapat may alam tayong technique. So I'll be showing to you some technique on defenses against knife attack and knife threat. So for example, sir, an attacker holding a knife, first, ang attacker will always hide the knife. So hindi natin alam kung anong weapon meron siya at the back of his body. So again, prevention, kung hindi tayo sigurado, we create distance. Create distance and then ang kamay natin nakataas na. So if in case he will be attacking, at least we are already semi-ready. Itong example na gagawin namin is he wants to attack me with a knife going downward. This is the defense against knife attack going downward. Ready? Up. Okay, basically that technique is a high-level technique. Pinapakita ko lang sa inyo na through training, we can acquire that technique and we can do that if necessary. So on the lower level, same then, if we are attacked with a knife, ito naman ang pwede natin gawin. So with that, same yung attack, ang ginawa lang nating defense is we block the knife attack with our forearm, and immediately we counter attack with a punch, we kick, and we run. So with that, nag-survive tayo dun sa attack. Another attack is knife threat. Kung threat lang, hold up situation, when we say threat, knife is away from the body. So with training, we can immediately parry the knife, hand and body defense, and then immediately counter attack by kicking sa groin, and then we run and create distance. Another example, hold up situation. Knife nakadikit sa likod natin from this position. So again, those are example of defenses against knife threat and knife attack. Defense against gun threat. So ito yung situation kanina, may tumutok ng baril doon sa victim, hindi niya alam yung gagawin niya kahit nakita niya. So he was shot and then eventually he died. So if you see an attacker with a gun at hindi pa niya pinuputok, ito ang gagawin natin. Dapat, dapat, dapat. Again, high-level technique. First and foremost, we need to know how to use the gun. And then incorporating yung Krav Maga technique of hand and body defense, counter-attacking by punching, disarming. And then once na nakuha mo yung gun, you can use the gun against the attacker. Again, nakita nyo kanina, I did not fire the gun. But with the gun and with my verbal command, I control the attacker without firing the gun. Hold up situation. Okay, hold up situation then, the muzzle of the gun touching my back. Good. Dapat. Almost similar situation. Attacker natin may gun. Hold up situation at the back. So pointing sa likod ko. So I was able to do the technique, counter-attacking with the elbow, and then disarming, and using the gun and my verbal command to control the attacker. So basically, yun yung mga demonstration ng Krav Maga. So again, ang Krav Maga have different levels. It is a practical and tactical self-defense technique. Okay, so we can manage any unarmed attack or attack na ang attacker natin ay may weapon or armed attack. So again, the Krav Maga technique is not limited to civilians, to law enforcement, to military. So meron din tayong mga technique, as mentioned kanina ni Atty. Paulino, we also teach tactical shooting. So tactical shooting and different defenses, unarmed and unarmed defenses. So ladies and gentlemen, that's Krav Maga, and thank you very much for watching and listening sa lecture kanina.
Sure. I just have a really quick question po. With regards to, okay, we understand that these are defenses for in general, but do you have like a few specific techniques? Let's say if like a lady lawyer is being attacked and then she's not aware that there are more than one assailants. Like let's say earlier the demonstration for an attacker, just a single attacker. But what if a lady is being attacked, but for example, in different directions by more than one assailant? Is there like an easy technique?
Yes, ma'am. We also have techniques on how to manage multiple attacker. Basically, we need to just follow yung principle of how to fight multiple attackers. Dito lang, tatlo. O dalawa. Dalawa. Okay. Dito ba kayo? Okay. So, principle of how to manage multiple attacker, ma'am. First, we don't want to be in between the attacker. We don't want to be in between the attacker. We must consider the two attacker as one. And we always move around the attacker. So kung nag-attack siya, huwag yung pag. So simulate lang natin mga attacker. So kung nag-attack, if you have the necessary tool, in Krav Maga, for example, you know how to kick, you know how to punch, you know to do open palm strike, and all other attack techniques. You apply that, combine that, and remember the principle that you need to stay, you don't need to stay in between the attacker and go around the two attackers. So example is the attacker. Okay, with that, you've seen I combine different attack techniques, making sure that I'm standing, I'm aware of where are they going, putting myself going around them and not in between them. So in Krav Maga training, you'll be learning different attack techniques, different defense techniques. At the same time, you will be prepared to fight with multiple attackers.
Thank you very much, Major. Thank you po. Thank you po. I appreciate the lesson. Thank you.
So, admin, do we have other questions for our lecturer, our guest speaker? So, Major San Juan, that was indeed a very valuable and informative talk that I'm sure most, if not all of the participants are intently listening and paying attention. So, Attorney Job, I believe we have something to show our appreciation to our guests.
Yes, Attorney
guest
team.
lecturers.
From a very, very serious topic, we would like to appreciate, of course, our resource persons. We also want to appreciate also the presence of our national president for initiating this kind of webinar series, Pres Egon Cayosa. But for purposes of our guest speakers, we would like to provide, since virtual naman muna tayo lahat, uso naman ang virtual, we would like to present our virtual certificate of appreciation. First to Attorney Paulino B. Labrado, in grateful acknowledgement and sincere appreciation for having served as guest speaker, for sharing his valuable insights and inspiration, and for his time, courage, and willingness to share his experiences despite the predicaments he has to bear amidst the pervading fear of imminent danger in light of the recent attacks, death threats, and killings of our fellow lawyers and judges. What we have shared is simply invaluable for our fellow lawyers to learn from in the webinar entitled Seguridad at Kaligtasan para sa Abogado, a webinar series on lawyer personal security and safety, held on the 6th of March 2021 via Zoom, video conference, and Facebook Live. Signed, Attorney Domingo Egon Q. Cayosa, Integrated Bar of the Philippines, National President and Chairman of the 24th Board of Governors, and of course, Attorney Tim Kenneth R. Bansig, Integrated Bar of the Philippines, National Director for Lawyer Security. Attorney Paulino B. Labrado, maraming salamat po.
Welcome, sir, and thank you also.
Next is also our certificate of appreciation. For this certificate of appreciation is gratefully presented to Major Lawrence Panuan Pa,
Philippine Army.
PA, Philippine Army, sorry. In grateful acknowledgement and sincere appreciation for having served as guest speaker, for sharing his valuable insights and knowledge on the techniques of personal defense in several scenarios. What he has shared will enhance the knowledge and skills of lawyers in personal defense and security consciousness in the webinar entitled Seguridad at Kaligtasan para sa Abogado, a webinar series on lawyer personal security and safety held on the 6th day of March 2021 via Zoom, video conference, and Facebook Live. Again, signed by Attorney Domingo Egon Q. Cayosa, Integrated Bar of the Philippines, National President, Chairman of the 24th Board of Governors, and Attorney Tim Kenneth R. Bansig, Integrated Bar of the Philippines, National Director for Lawyer Security. Major Lawrence San Juan, maraming salamat po.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you then, sir.
So I guess, attorneys, this ends our series, webinar series. Maraming salamat. For all those who made messages on our chat box, be assured that all your messages are properly stored and i-collate po namin lahat yan. And some of your questions were already addressed personally by our president. And I hope nasagot po namin yung inyong mga tanong. Yung mga hindi namin nabasa, sabi ko nga, i-record po namin yan for our studies. And yung mga suggestion nyo po, we will note that po. Maraming salamat. So that would end our series of webinars. Take note, baka meron pa po tayong mga additional na series of webinars. It will be properly announced in our website and through our chapters, no, para maka-participate ulit po kayo sa ating video webinar. Anyway, usong-uso naman yan ngayon. Pati elections, uso sa online. All right, maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat.
Good night po sa lahat.
Good night.
Thank you. Good work, Jam. Good work, team. Everyone, thank you.